Hi there. Today I want to talk about The Menu, which was released in 2022. Welcome to the Monkey Cinema. Let's go. I had been waiting for this movie for a while and with great anticipation, as I love all kinds of thrillers and detective stories. Movies that don't have stupid special effects and superheroes. Movies that are built on an interesting plot, not primitive fights and shootouts. This movie is one of those. It really disappointed me though, and now I will explain why. As stated in the description of this movie, it is a combination of three genres: horror, thriller, and dark comedy. This is strange because these elements are completely absent. What can be funny about murder, suicide, sociopathy, and mental disorders? The main idea of the film is that all the events that take place in a restaurant and are elements of the menu and merge into a kind of farewell performance of the entire staff. These events indicate staff's mental disorders. Without these horrible events, this play would not be able to reach its planned culmination. I would understand if only the chief had mental issues and somehow intimidated the entire staff and forced them into this event, but all the staff agreed to mass murder and suicide voluntarily. People who are invested in their careers, live their lives, don't suddenly become psychopaths. For some reason, everyone lost their will to live, except for one girl, who figured out how to bypass the rules of this game after visiting the chef Julian's house and seeing his photo of the employee of the month. This is exactly the tip that will help her get out of there. If the rest of the visitors saw him let her go, why didn't they do the same? Yes, maybe she was lucky and this was an exception. Nevertheless, from that moment it was clear that if this entire well-thought-out script was changed, it was possible to achieve a different ending to this play. In any case, no one, except Margot, tried to save themselves. This is already some kind of mass psychosis. The guests reacted strangely to the suicide of one of the cooks. Some panicked, others thought that it was all just a show for guests, as this is not real and the guy is alive. But none of those present checked whether the guy was really dead. And Tyler was a fanatic, because he knew that everyone would die in the end. He went there anyway, and invited an innocent girl with him. Without any objection from anybody, he hanged himself after the chief's criticizing. His craziness should have manifested itself somehow, and Margot should have noticed it earlier. However, some points are not clear to me. If they have such opportunities to get information about the financial fraud of the three guests, to find a photo of a man with a prostitute, why couldn't they find out anything about Margot during the entire film? As a visitor, what's the point of paying for the restaurant services, if the owner of said restaurant is killed by his own staff, and then they commit suicide? In this movie, you can see that only an ordinary woman who turns out to be a prostitute can adequately appreciate this restaurant. Throughout the film, she barely ate anything, as she considered the behavior of the staff and their food unacceptable. She perceives these dishes not as food, but as whimsy for the rich. In this, she really impresses me, because in the modern world, people prefer whatever's pretty and expensive over something truly useful. According to the administrator, the chef and all the employees of this restaurant adhere to the highest standards, but they were served breadless bread. So what are the higher standards here? It's just quirk to not be like everyone else. What is more, you can view the concept of the movie from a religious point, where everyone pays for their sins. There are corrupt people who do not consider other people and abuse their power thanks to their wealth, acquaintances, and opportunities. Whoremongers, who cheat on their wives. Oh, one of them comes to this restaurant with his mistress. Oh, another one has his ring finger cut off while trying to leave the restaurant. There is also a restaurant critic who treats everyone with contempt, is always dissatisfied, and criticizes everything she sees. Abusing her status as a famous critic, she ruins many restaurants that closed after her assessment. There is also a fanatic who idolizes Julian, the chef of this restaurant. He seems to be able to eat even crap if told it's from the chief and still be satisfied. To sum it all up, the plot is not bad, but it still disappointed me. The beginning of the film still held some intrigue. I was hoping that maybe at least in the last scenes there would be some turn of events in which everything would not go according to the Chiez plan. or that the guests will at least start fighting for their lives. But I hoped were in vain, because from the middle of the film it becomes clear that the guests who came to this restaurant are like a herd of sheep hoping that the guard dog will save them at the cost of his life.
I love you all.